This is a video for the Dislyte boys. If you're not them, get out.
Hello and welcome back to Dislyte News, the Dislyte News for your Dislyte News. New patch is coming up, and that means I'm talking about new espers yet again. But before we do that, check out my fan art! Yeah, it's pretty cool. I made it myself. Don't criticize me, please. Well, anyways, now that that's out of the way, let's talk espers. So as always, we're gonna talk about the new esper for this patch first before the next patch. And for this patch, we got Yujing. Yujing is a support esper that basically just enabled meta living to finally be in PvP. In terms of how good she is, she's not really as meta as I initially kind of made her out to be. Yujing needs the accentuated buff from Lu Shang, so yeah, fell off a bit there. But her resos are still pretty good. R2 is really good, you know, the ability cooldown. So yeah, for Yujing, it's not really a must pull anymore, but it's still a pretty good pull. Now for the next patch, we got some really interesting espers, and by really interesting espers, I mean Meta Yunchuan. Yep, our second meta esper, and it is Light Mode Yunchuan. So Light Mode Yunchuan is a PvP defender. Currently, he's not very meta because he doesn't seem to have a solid place in anywhere in the teams. But if anything, I guess you can say that his R2 kind of stops Moroyama from like one-shotting your team. So that's something, I guess. So Light Mode Yunchuan is only obtainable during the Celestial Anomaly, so no need to save Wish Stones for him. But also, his R1 basically makes it so that any of Yunchuan resos that you have basically gives a 5% stat boost to Light Mode Yunchuan, kind of like Meta Liling. So R1 might be considerable if you have enough resources for that. Next up, we have Wenlock. Wenlock is another championship esper, so once again, don't need to save Wish Stones for him. Wenlock is a pretty decent buffer, mostly giving you like crit rate up, crit damage up, some crit resist stuff on the other team, and also just like buffing damage mostly. For now, it seems that Wenlock is more towards the PvP side because his buffs are not actually as good as some of the other buffers. So if anything, he's probably only gonna be used in like PvP to kind of redistribute all the crit stuff. For Wenlock, his R2 and R6 are pretty good. So if you're going to go for Wenlock, R2 and R6 is kind of the one that you want to aim for. But for now, he doesn't really seem to be that worth it of an esper just yet, so probably save up on your championship coins. And now, let's talk about the weekly espers. So for week 1, we have Yunchuan and Brewster. Yunchuan is a pretty good fighter, although he's mostly used in PvE like Falsetto Fantasy and Fafnir, and really little in PvP now. For Yunchuan, you need at least R2 for him to work, but the good thing is R2 is already really good. You don't need all the other resos. So for Yunchuan, I would say he's a pretty good pull. Next up, Brewster. Brewster is also a really strong fighter, mostly used in like Falsetto Fantasy and APEP. Not so much in PvP anymore, unless you count like towers content, I guess. For Brewster, while he doesn't need R2, R2 is really good because you get like 3 stacks of reload at the start of the combat, so you don't have to build his speed like crazy. So yeah, for Brewster, I would say he's also a really good pull, and also you can kind of get a lot of like his stickers and all that in the loyalty chest. So if you want to build resos, I would say go for the loyalty chests and probably not invest too much in the wish stone side. For week 2, we have Jinchu and Nora. Jinchu is pretty good in both PvP and also in Andres. But for Jinchu, you kind of need R2 for him to be good in those content, because only then he would be able to give like buffs to his teammates. And for PvP, you want him at R6 so that he's immune to all the stuns. So for Jinchu, I would say he is not really a must pull or a really good pull, but he's still pretty decent of a pull. Next up, For Nora, Nora is now pretty good in PvP and also still really good in Andres. Nora, when you combine her with Anna in a PvP team, it's kind of painful. Like some of them have been defeating my Wuyu comp so far and I don't get how. In terms of resos, Nora's resos are all pretty good. So if you want to go for like R2, R4, R6, it can be pretty good, but only if you're really gonna go for like the Nora and Ana comp, which is not really that meta right now. So, you know, for week 3, we have Gaius and Clara. So for Gaius, he still does pretty good damage, but honestly, he's not meta anymore. The only content that he's still regularly in is Shadowfire, and that's it. In terms of resos, R0 is enough. You don't need to invest into Gaius anymore because he's really out of meta now, and R0 really just does everything already. Next up we have Clara. Clara, still a pretty good support. Of course, she's still overshadowed by like Sakura and all that, but still pretty good. She can still be used in both PvP and PvE thanks to her dispels, thanks to her AP up, thanks to her heals, and her resos do make her better, but not exactly necessary. So for Clara, I would say not really that worth, because she's not exactly meta anymore, and also you can get her resos in loyalty chest now. So yeah, that's all the espers that are coming out next patch. I'm not seeing any really good espers, but that probably means that the next patch after this one, there's gonna be some really good espers. So save your wish stones. Or not, because some of these are actually pretty decent espers. Well, either way, share more stickers. Bye.